Hey everybody, Desert Growth Spurt here, back with a special edition video. Today I have a guest with me, an old friend of mine, goes by the name of Big Daddy. Has a lot of expertise in outdoor gorilla growing. So I wanted to go ahead and bring him on since all of my stuff has been indoors. So
Big
Dennis,
Daddy.
why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
All right, I am from Illinois, and I've mostly done outdoor growing over the years, what a lot of people would call guerrilla growing, which is basically growing outdoors in a space that isn't yours. Um,
Not
yeah, so probably about 10 years doing that, maybe a little more.
kind of nice now that it's legal, don't have to necessarily invade other people's spaces anymore, huh?
Yes, yes.
You know, again, I do want to remind everyone that everything we do say is alleged and just our own opinions that we're sharing amongst each other. So I have a couple questions for you. So when you're doing your outdoor growing, how do you go about like finding an area that's going to be kind of viable to grow these plants?
Of course, good question. That's the that's where you start is finding a location. And it can be uh, a variety of different places. Personally, I use cornfields because of the wildlife in my area. The deer, they get at the plants and they'll eat them up. So when you're thinking about a location, you're going to want to consider what type of wildlife you have in your area. If you don't have to be concerned about the wildlife, then just find an area that's not going to be seen by anyone.
Okay. Now you said so you've been doing it in cornfields.
Mhm.
Is there other than the deer you said, is there another reason why you pick cornfields?
Yeah, it keeps it private. People don't usually go wandering through cornfields. I mean, it does happen, and it can be found. In all the years I've done it, mine haven't been found. Knock on wood. But
Nice, nice.
it's part of it. The when you put the plants in the ground, which we'll go over timing on that and everything a little later. But when you put the plants in the ground, the corn's already at a certain height, so it kind of conceals your plants, and the soil's great. That's another thing.
Okay, all right. So, all right. So let's go ahead. When you're going out and you're scouting out, you said in a cornfield. Okay.
Mhm.
Is it kind of near your house? Are you driving around looking for these places?
Um,
How close to home do you keep it really in general?
well, one time I was on a piece of property that I was living on, and it had surrounding cornfields. So that year, I mean, it was connected to my own property.
Nice.
Other years, it was quite a distance because I had found a really sweet spot and I used it multiple times. Which, in my region, cornfields are alternated. So one year it'll be corn, the next year it'll be soy. So you're not going to be able to use it 2 years in a row.
Okay. So even if you find like a great location, it's one and done. You got to move on.
Well, one for that year, you could go back, one year one and then year three.
Okay, so they'll cycle back to the corn.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So yeah, there's been a couple of fields that I have used multiple times because they were great. They worked out really good.
nice. So, all right, so let me ask you this question. So you said normally when you take your plants out, that the corn already has a little bit of growth.
Yes.
So I guess my question I wanted to ask is how are you going out there with plants? Are you going out and throwing seeds in, or are you coming out with plants that have already kind of sprouted a little bit?
Good question. Um, so you realistically, a person could obviously go out there with seeds, but there's a few things for the the cornfield, particularly, that you need to think about, and that's they do fertilize in June. So
Okay.
that fertilizer will kill your plants. Now, if you're not using a cornfield, for instance, and you're using just you found a really good location, it's private, um, it's gonna get good sunlight and such. Uh, you could put a seed in, but to be honest, I mean, I started if you got a light available, a small light available, you can start it early so that it gets a nice little size to it before you put it in the ground. And then, if you're doing it in a cornfield, you're not going to be able to put it in the ground till like the end of June. So by that time, you can have a nice size to it. And, at the end of the year, that's going to make a difference. Trust me. I've had some 8, 9 foot plants.
Oh my goodness, that is crazy.
It
So
is.
have you ever had any of them kind of outgrow some of the corn out there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
By the end of the year, those things were sticking up.
oh my goodness, that is insane.
Yeah, it is.
So, how, ballpark, how many plants are you going out there with? Are you going out with just like a small handful, or are you trying to make it worth your while if you're doing this?
All right. Well, I'll briefly go over my first year. My first year, I didn't I didn't have feminized seeds my first year. We were just using really good mid grade
If I
seeds.
may ask, about what time was this? Is this like a couple years back, or you said you've been doing it a while?
Oh
When was
yeah,
this?
when I said I've been doing it for 10 years, that doesn't mean just the last 10 years. It means like I've got like 10 years of growing that I've
Off
done
and on.
over, yeah, off and on. So my first year outdoor was, I'd say around about 15 years ago.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. So we're talking probably mid, almost late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, I would say like probably around like 2004, 2005.
Gotcha. So yeah, any sort of feminized seeds back then, those were still the early days of kind of
Yeah, I mean, I'm
stable
sure there was.
genetics, and you didn't know really what you were getting.
Exactly. There was probably people out there that like, knew about the feminized and all that, but I sure didn't. I'll be honest with you.
Sure, sure.
And
So,
so it
and I
was just
apologize. So yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so it was a buddy of mine had been doing it for some years, and he kind of established that strain. He grew, he'd pull the males, but then he had like a whole different area where he had like a couple that would be male and female so that he could get some seeds. And he did that year after year to just kind of establish that strain. And it became a really good, like a mid grade for our region outdoor growing
Sure.
seed.
That's, hey,
So I
there's
uh
nothing wrong with mids.
I took I took 100 seeds and I started them
Oh boy.
and I put them all out in the field. I had no clue as to um as to how big these things got and how much they could produce and how much work they could be, even if you're just letting nature take its course. At the end when you're harvesting
Christmas
it,
tree. Yeah.
yeah, when you're harvesting a plant, I mean, 5, 6 plants, 10 plants, that's a good decent amount to trim.
That's, yeah, you're locked in jail for days taking
Oh yeah.
care of that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's no
so
fun.
when you're not doing feminized, you're kind of going off of 50-50. You figure 100 plants, there'd be like 50 females. And it turned out that year, I think it was something like, I got lucky, I guess. It was 75 females.
I mean, that's a good problem, right?
It's a good problem.
Oh man.
I called on some solid people I knew that I knew would appreciate it as well. And I was just like, all right, look, I'm giving away full plants
Mhm.
to anybody that helps me trim my plants that I'm gonna keep.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, so you said you went out with about 75 plants. How much space did you end up having to take up?
Well, you approximately, and I that year I chose like in the same field, like three different spots,
Okay.
just because I was like, well, I don't know, you never know, somebody might find it or something might happen. So I kind of was like trying to, spread it around a little bit. But you kind of for an outdoor plant, you want to figure that that plant is gonna need like about a 3 foot radius. Not that it'll actually take up that amount of space, but
You're
you're gonna want to
talking
have space in
down
between
in
them
the
and stuff.
dirt.
No, like 3 foot, like spread around it
I
from
gotcha.
its
I
base. Like
gotcha.
that's how
Yep.
much room it'll need. Which you figure, is like 2 to 2.5 feet is gonna be for the branches and stuff, and then you want space between them. So you do the math.
Yeah.
Three square foot times 75. That's what's
Well, it's
that?
nice that you break it up into a couple sections. So if
Yeah, yeah,
Farmer Joe happens to come upon one, that's only one, not everything.
exactly, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, which
Nice.
is so I ended up with 75. So obviously I put in 100 though.
Right.
So I think I had like anywhere like it was 30 to 35 per area.
So, okay, all right. I have a crazy burning question. So if you're trying to take out 100 plants, how are you getting 100? I'm just picturing in my head, even if they're still in the seed trays,
Dude, yeah.
walking out in a cornfield at night.
Yes. So, all right. So, before I talk about pulling them out, we'll talk about bringing them in.
Okay,
You're gonna. I'll briefly say, if you go something crazy like that, man, you better have a truck, you better have a van, or you better have a box truck. I had a van. I had a big conversion van at the time, and it took multiple trips to
okay,
get them.
okay. Yeah,
So,
makes
dude,
sense.
if you got a little car, don't go big like that.
Maybe start small,
Uh,
keep it
yeah,
couple,
yeah,
something
maybe
you
do
can
like 10.
fit in your car when you're done.
And yeah, and know you're gonna make multiple trips to it.
Crazy. Yeah.
All right, so we'll start with putting them in. We've found the location, whatever you've chosen, whether you've chosen a cornfield or you've chosen somewhere else, nice and secluded that isn't gonna attract attention. You don't want
Yeah.
somebody finding your plants, basically. So it can be under the nose of people. I mean, it doesn't have to be like far away either. It's just got to be to where nobody's going to find the plants.
Sure.
So, all right. So you found your spot. You've got your plants started. First, you're going to go out after you found your spot. You're going to go and clear your area. And, you just rip out the plants.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
You go and you rip out the plants, take them, just throw them off into the other, rows of corn. Don't worry about like all that. Just get them out of the way, and then you're gonna want to dig your holes. Like be ready to dig your holes. Like when you clear it out, you know, just go there with a shovel, go there with some mosquito spray, and
Oh, yeah.
go there in the evening. Or again, if you're not using the cornfield, again, this all works the same if you've chosen a different location. Go there in
Sure.
the evening when you're not going to be noticed, obviously. So then you dig your holes and you got your holes dug, you got your plants ready to put in. You waited until, for the people that do use the corn, you waited until the farmer fertilized those cornfields. And if not, you're ready a little sooner if you're putting it somewhere else. So then you take your plants out. Obviously that first year was a little crazy. After that, I kind of toned it down. It was more like around. I was trying to work at like having around 20 to 30.
Okay,
So
a little bit
you
more
know
manageable than
exactly, and
75
of
to
course, and
100.
then you're gonna lose some from the males as well. So I mean,
Of
in the
course.
end, I was hoping to have between 15 and 20 females.
Yeah,
Is what
yeah, yeah.
so. So you go out there, you bring them out. You're gonna want to, you know, if you've got them in solo cups or whatever you've started them off in, just put them in a box and throw them in your trunk and go out. You drop them off real quick. You go maybe park your car a little ways away and then walk back. I had like a little motor scooter at the time for
Okay.
one of the times, and it was like about 3 miles away from my house. So I went and dropped the plants off, um, and then I came back on the motor scooter and just parked it in the corn rows and went in there and proceeded to put the plants in. Now, put your when you're going to put your plants in, you dug your holes. Make sure you dig your holes um, deep enough that you can do like maybe a foot of nice loose dirt or peat moss or something. It doesn't have to have nutrients in it, but something that's going to be loose. Because anywhere that you go and dig a hole in the ground, whether it's a cornfield, I mean, especially a cornfield, but in other places, it's going to be compact dirt. So uh, it's just a good tip to just bring a little dirt out there with you.
Okay, so kind of sprinkle some of that and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
usually put about a foot. It gives the roots, you know, loose dirt to grow in before it has to start digging into that more compact dirt.
Okay. So I'm trying to picture myself, carrying all these plants, shovel out at night. You ever get lost? You ever get creeped out, like Children of the Corn vibes type thing going?
For sure, for sure. And usually, like, what I would try to do is, um, I'd want to hit it like right when it's getting to be dusk, so there's still a little bit of light out, and I got a little, got an hour or so to work, and when you're picking your spot, if it's a cornfield, and you kind of need to remember specifically where your spot is in that cornfield, I usually pick the side to go down, and then I'd get you know a pretty good distance, and then I would just kind of pick something, a landmark or something around me,
Like
a
a
tree stand
visual
or something.
landmark of some kind. Okay.
Yeah, and then once you've got that, then you go straight into the field. You don't go diagonal, you just go straight in a good 30 rows, and
Okay.
then you make your spot.
Oh, so you're pretty deep in. You
Yeah,
said
you want to
30
make sure
rows.
that any of the animals that do kind of like venture into the cornfield a little bit, they won't venture too far because they can lose their sense of direction very easily. So you want to make sure they're not going to come across it. You want to make sure hunters aren't, going to go a few rows into the field to kind of get out of the way. And then, hey,
Sure.
what's this?
Yeah. No, I got you. Yeah, that's smart thing. Things a home grower never even bothered thinking about. I just
Yeah,
put made a little room in my garage as soon as it became legal out here, and that was the end of that. That's just where
yeah,
I where I'm at. So,
yeah.
uh,
The legal way is definitely way better for sure.
it's so
It's
much.
legal in Illinois now, and I'll be the first to admit I do a tent grow right now. Not to say that I don't still
None of us. We're
work
all
with
learning.
the outdoor grows,
Yeah,
but
everything changes.
yeah,
Every
exactly.
yeah,
And for those people
indoor to
out there,
outdoor.
if you don't have the the availability in your state to be able to do it legally, we completely understand, so for those people, be safe, be smart, and if you don't have cornfields in your state, for instance, these tips, um, they can work for a variety of things too. You just, you got to be smart. You can do it in the woods. You can find a clearing. You got to kind of like know that it's not really going to be stumbled across. You know.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Definitely don't want it out in the open, none of that hiding
Exactly.
in plain sight anymore.
And if
Everyone
you
knows and everyone can recognize it real quick. Kids know what it is, unfortunately.
exactly.
So,
Yep. And if your area is just really really difficult for the outdoor grow, if you feel that it's going to be hard for you to find a spot that for sure isn't going to be stumbled across, then do what I did the first year. Just don't put it all in one spot. Then
kind of
spread it out,
spread it
find
out.
find
Sure.
multiple spots, and then you're just gonna you might lose one.
Gotcha. Um, so question. So when you got your plants are in the ground. So now I'm assuming because earlier you said the corn's already grown a little bit, the plants are growing a little bit, so they're all kind of fairly even,
Yeah.
planned out, of course.
Hmm.
So indoors, I got to do a lot of kind of nutrient supplementing.
Yeah.
Do you have to go out, do any feeding? Do you do any extra waterings out there?
Um, for the people that are very knowledgeable in nutrients, do your thing for sure. Do your thing. Um, and that's in the early stages. Once it's out there, you got to think about it. It's already in a field that's been fertilized year after year after year after year. That soil is awesome for the cornfields.
For
For
yeah, being in
people
a
that are
field.
not able to use the cornfields, and you're doing the forest, or you're doing other areas, um, then yeah, if you know about nutrients, go ahead. But no matter what, um, the ground, I mean, unless you live in just a really horrible area for soil, then the ground's gonna be decent. It's gonna
Oh,
have
like the
nutrients.
desert?
Yeah.
Kind of like that, huh?
Yeah,
So
for you, I would say if you were ever gonna try to do an outdoor gorilla grow, I would say that you would need to bring um your own soil for sure.
my own soil, I would need
Yeah,
like a sunshade, some
definitely.
sort of like
Yeah,
cooling to go on. Yeah,
yeah.
none of that out here. I mean,
And for
I'm
those people that do think about that kind of stuff, then if you're gonna do that, think about certain things like you want to make sure there's not gonna get too much light, which the corn kind of helped because it was a little bit higher than the plants when I put it in. By the end of the year, they were about the same, but when I put them in, they were a good foot and a half shorter. So the corn kind of limited it from getting too much sun for a period of time.
yeah, until it was ready. That makes sense. Ah,
Yeah,
see, yeah, again, put them in a little bit shorter.
yeah, and water. For those that are thinking about what the water situation. Obviously, your area. If it's general, you don't got to worry about it much. If you live in an area that's got like less rain, then you may consider, and this works in a cornfield or anywhere else, you may consider putting it more towards like the bottom of a hill so that the water is going to accumulate
Kind
more
of
down there
naturally.
when it
Okay.
does rain. Yeah. And then for those that have a lot of rain in your area, you might want to consider having it higher up on a hill. And it always
Nice.
helps, I mean, if you can plant them somewhere that has natural water, a creek or a pond, river, somewhere close, then the ground is gonna it's gonna have water in it,
That's a good
and it's
point.
gonna be available to you if you
Yeah,
need it.
I wanted to touch on that here real quick. Kind of being by a water source,
Hmm.
so even if let's say it's not necessarily in a farming field, you
Yeah,
can get near a water source, then you don't even have to worry about lugging out water. You can just use that natural resource right next to it. That is
yeah,
smart thinking. Yeah,
yeah. The groundwater will naturally be wetter, and if you do need to, you can get to it. People that I kayak, so I go out on creeks and kayak, and to be honest, I've seen quite a few spots that I'm like, that'd be perfect right there. It's not right there on the edge where obviously kayakers are gonna see it, but I can see in the distance that it's like, all right, yeah, you could pull over here, put a few plants in, you'd have easy access to it
make it
that
look like
nobody's
you're
really
having a
noticed. People
picnic and
pull over.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. You're just pulling over and stopping for whatever reason, and no big deal.
nice.
Obviously, when you're pulling it out, it's gonna be a little different. You'll have to think about
Sure.
that. But bring a sheet,
Yeah,
extra kayak, throw it on there, throw a sheet over it.
nice. Yeah, that's totally smart. Especially maybe if you got one of those sit-in kayaks,
Oh yeah, yeah.
you could even kind of put something. So I personally also have one. My kayak, I have a live fishing well in mine.
Oh yeah.
So kind of right by my seat, I can open it up, throw some
Drop
water
in.
in, catch my fish.
Yep.
Could definitely be a nice little hiding compartment because it runs the whole length of the kayak too. So I could
Yeah, yeah.
definitely
Yeah, just throw like a sheet around the plant or whatever and just stuff her in there.
start putting it. It's a huge fish. It's a huge fish.
Yeah, like,
That
hey, what's going on there? Your kayak's kind of weighed down there, sir.
Yeah. I just brought extra beer. Sorry about that. That's way more socially acceptable for some reasons.
Of course. Oh,
Uh, so a couple things. One big thing that I do want to touch on, in our part one series of the
yeah.
gorilla growing, training.
Okay, yeah.
Now, indoors, I want to say most indoor growers all do tons of training to try and get the most out of their plant count because obviously each
Well,
state has a variable plant count. Um, when you're outdoors and you have that great natural sunlight and like you said, even great soil, do you need to go out and do training? And if you do, what are you doing exactly?
okay, good question. Um, I'll start with this and I'll say that a big reason why growers train is because they have a light source that's coming directly down. So they're wanting to maneuver the branches and stuff so that they can maximize that light that's coming directly down. In your outdoor plants, the sun is like all encompassing. So those leaves on the sides and stuff, they're all gonna get sun. So you don't necessarily have to train. You could, and I mean, it could do some good even outdoors, but your main thing that you're gonna want to do is top. For outdoor plants, you're gonna want to top to kind of get them to bush out.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, yeah, if you want to go in there and you want to spend a little time and just kind of take those branches that are bushing out and just spread them a little bit, sure, absolutely, that will get, those inner leaves more light. But just understand that with it being outdoors, it's going to get way more light than any indoor plant could ever
Are
get.
you going out like what we call LST, low stress training? Indoors we do a lot of stem rubbing to loosen the branches. Is that what you're referring to when you go out? Are kind of because now I imagine being outdoors, they're a little big and mealy.
Oh,
So are
dude.
you like working these things?
You know what? Yeah, I have. I did grow into doing that kind of stuff. Those are things that, you kind of pick up over the years of growing. For the new people out there, Don't worry about it. Just let nature do its thing. Go out there. You for sure want to top it a couple of times. You want to top it when you first put it in. Let's say for instance, my plant was from the bottom of the cup to the top when I put it in about a foot and a half. And it's got, 1/3 of its root, in the cup, dirt and roots and everything. Well, when I put it in the ground, I'm burying half of that thing.
Yeah.
It's already got thick stems because I'm blasting it with fans and stuff, making right away. Even when they're small, man, I'm just blasting them. They're
Starting to
flopping around.
harden them off, getting
Yup,
them ready for outside.
getting their branches nice and strong and everything, getting them used to it, and then you put it out there and you you don't think about it, but that wind is just almost constantly going. So those things are just constantly getting wind, and they're just getting the branches are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I've had the center stalk um as big as my arm. Seriously, as big as my arm, that
Oh
center
my
one.
goodness.
Huge, just
Oh,
huge.
and you're no slouch either. That's
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
that's
How
not a
many?
toothpick he's holding, people. That's
Thank
yeah,
you.
that's incredible. That is
Yeah, they
incredible.
get really big. So yeah, you can do a little bit of stress training, but your main thing is you're just gonna want to top them a couple of times. You put them in the ground, you bury them, you top them. You're gonna come out there a month later or whatever. You're gonna see they got some size to them. And you go ahead and top them again. Boom, 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 top them, and they're just gonna spread out and you
So,
know.
and I just want to recap real quick for any new growers. When
Mhm.
we're referring to topping, when the plant is growing right in the middle, if you take that middle piece and either with scissors or your fingers and
Mhm.
you pinch that off, two branches will start. So what he's referring to is you're going through and topping instead of one main top, you're going to make two. And if you do this multiple times, we're talking multiple tops of those nice big colas. So I just wanted to refresh for everyone real quick in case there's any new growers among us that aren't exactly sure what we're referring to.
But like I said, for the guerrilla growers, I would say, yeah, you can do it if you want. But if you don't want to go out there, you don't want to attract attention to the spot, just let it be. Go out there and top them a couple of times. If you've got a spot that you can get access to and you want to take the time to do some training, and I'm gonna send a video clip that, you can put a link and let people see a plant that I have outdoors right now that I've been doing like a new kind of training for me. And this is where you take the branches and you spread them horizontally. You train
Okay.
them so that they grow just horizontally. And what happens is those branches, they had coli before growing, but they're growing in an upward
Yeah.
motion. You put it vertical, and now those things each start
All
sprouting
growing
up.
straight
Yup.
up.
And then
Oh,
if you wanted to, you could top each one of those, and those each one growing up turn into two growing up, and that's just
that's
on each branch. I mean, it could just turn ridiculous for one plant.
yeah, and that's what's up, especially for a lot of indoor growers out there right now, as each state is
Yeah,
becoming legal,
yeah,
and we're restricted to these plant counts, and depending on how many people in your family or your household,
mm-hmm.
you may be growing for.
Of
If
course.
you have a six plant count, that may not be enough. If it's
Yeah.
you, your wife, let's even say maybe your parents or your in-laws,
Mm-hmm.
for some of the medicinal purposes, you're trying to help them out. Even if you are growing a CBD plant, that still actually will count as your plant count. So I want to throw that out there
Yeah,
for everyone that just
yeah,
because it doesn't have THC does not matter. The government does not care. Your plant count is your plant count. So
correct.
I just wanted to remind everyone that there's definitely tricks to
Yes.
maximize everything you can out of these plants. Now, not all plants are created equal.
Of course.
Autos versus
Autos.
photos, fantastically different, which is going to be a subject for a whole different
Oh
day.
yeah. Completely
Um,
different thing, of course.
but I did want to wrap it up there on our next round here, I definitely want to go over specifically how you get back out for the harvest. Especially, I want to hear how you did this 70 something plant pull out. Even with a van, I think we can all kind of picture that it's not enough. So
No.
I definitely want to hear about that. I think everyone else does too. And I appreciate your time today, for giving this great info for people who are kind of stuck doing it in the guerrilla style. So
Yeah.
to everyone out there, thank you. Make sure you do whatever it is that YouTube wants you to do, and stay tuned for part two.
All right. Thanks for having me.